Hello, friends, and welcome to Coach Cuts Corner. Streaming bright from Michigan's capital city, this podcast is dedicated to helping you better understand the who, the what, and the why of mental performance, personal growth, and Lansing Stars baseball. Coach Cuts Corner, brought to you by Eyewash.
In collaboration with Lansing Community College.
And now here's your host, Stephen Cutter.
Welcome back to Coach Cuts Corner. Today I'm joined in the studio with Travis Doyle, our LCC's pitching coach, and Jaymie Bane. Jaymie is a pro scout for the New York Mets and makes his home near the capital city. Thanks for joining me this morning, fellas.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to be here.
We've had a lot of amateur scouts for MLB teams at our games over the past 2 seasons. Sadly, we just lost a heck of a one with Clyde Weir, who was a native of Lansing and worked for the Tigers for about 37 years. Clyde and I first met at one of our first fall scrimmages. He came out, introduced himself, said he was a scout for the Tigers and wanted to know if we had anybody. I kind of laughed a little bit and said, I don't think so, but at some point I think we probably will. And he would always show up, always had a smile on his face, and he's certainly going to be missed. Jaymie, I wanted to talk a little bit about scouting and what's the difference between an amateur scout and a pro scout?
I think the big difference, they're both acquisitional roles, but I think the difference is, on the pro side, we're getting a guy that's more of a known commodity, right? There's a little bit more data out there. The competition they face is a little easier to judge against, especially as they move up the chain. And sometimes you get into, an area like ours, and you got a guy throwing 88, and he's carving people up, and he's one of the better players in the area, and it's hard to, there's an old line that I've used for a long time. It's, your judgment's as good as your scale, and your scale is as good as your judgment. So if that's what your lens is the amateur world, that's what those guys stick out in. And sometimes you move up, and Travis and I have talked about it, and you see a guy throwing 96, 97, and went pretty good in the draft, and you see him in Double-A, and you're like, he can't get anybody out. It's just, it doesn't mean the same thing. It's just like, they're providing the talent, and then it just kind of, comes up to a point, and that's kind of where, it varies too. Like you see a guy in rookie ball that just signed, you're almost doing that amateur level stuff where you're projecting on a guy. You see a 31-year-old in Triple-A that has been up and down the big leagues. Like, all right, why is he not able to stick? Can we do something within our organization that allows him to stick more, or is that just what he is? Like, you got to dig the information. The makeup's important at either level, but I don't have to deal with parents. I don't have to go into homes. I think that's a big deal. I think the agents are more likely to call me for help than on the amateur side because of the money involved and stuff like that. But it's evaluation. It's less projection because of the age as they get older.
How much has scouting changed over, we'll just say, the last 5 years?
Oh, if you say the last 5 years, I don't think it's changed as much. If you go back a little bit further, I think you have that. And I think it happens I've been in this game my whole life. My dad scouted, played, and
right.
And you see it like when my dad was probably my age, and you'd get around some of those scouts like, these new guys don't know what they're doing, kind of that whole thing. And then every 10 years it's cyclical. Everybody gets upset at the new stuff that happens, and the new guys come in and try to make changes, and it's essentially it's different verbiage than it used to be. It's the information's more precise and out there and available, but the terminology that's used, like, when Travis uses some of the things, I'm like, and I've had to learn, I'm like, okay, so that's what you mean by this on the pitching side. And it's just, I think the way that guys evaluate has changed, but I think organizations are actually getting back to, from the people I've talked to and the organizations I'm with, they want scouts to scout again. Don't just read me the numbers. I can see that. We want you to go to the game and tell me from your lens, what you see. And I think that's where the last 5 years, if it's changed, it's kind of reverted back to a little bit more of the old school, use your eyes, but with an understanding of the information that's there.
More of a blending of two worlds.
One, I think that's anything, right?
It's usually when it's best.
Right, it's when you blend it.
The old and new.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you see a lot of the scouting is still taking place in facilities and stuff like that, where they're seeing guys throw and seeing that piece, but you're not necessarily seeing how they compete in certain environments,
and I think
there's
that's
a difference.
Right, and you get out there, and there's been a ton of examples of guys that in a vacuum or in their environment, you're like, that is really good stuff, and they go really high in the draft, and they get paid really well, and nobody should be mad at those kids ever. Good for them. I mean, they did something, but then they face a hitter, and they're facing a team full of
different environment.
Right.
Yeah.
They're getting shelled, and you're like, dude's throwing 98 with his 87-mile-an-hour slider, and the 12U team's carving him up. Like
especially in the big leagues, once you run into the 500 best hitters in the world,
right.
It's like
especially on the pro side, right? Like it's the amateur side.
The other day, be one of the nicest people in the world, but he could also hit 110-mile-an-hour fastball.
Right.
That's what you could throw.
Right.
Like no matter how much your numbers grow, he's going to find a way to do it.
Right.
So that's
when I think the measurement tools are different. Like a lot of guys ask me, they say, "Are guys throwing harder now?" And I go, "Yeah." The way we measure it's different. So I think it's out of the hand quicker, but there's also guys throwing harder, but there's less guys, throwing strikes. So it's kind of like the give and take and that's where the cycle comes back in, because you get now Major League managers going, just give me somebody that throws the ball to the plate. I need somebody to hold runners and get the ball to the plate.
Right.
So I think that's where the cycle comes through. Especially, and it goes to the amateur side, right? Like you go to a Perfect Game or one of these other showcase things, and you look on their website, and it's touting a kid's spin rate, and then it says he's throwing 69.
Right.
Like going,
impressive. Well, you mentioned showcases. It seems like you've done a few of them. What's your thoughts on showcases and kids going to them? I mean, don't you in the baseball world somewhat feel like if you've got tools, then the best thing you can do is go show them off?
Yeah,
and if you've got
tools.
If you need to work on those tools, the best thing you can do is go work on those tools.
There's definitely and there are guys for sure that are really good at showcasing and not very good in the games, but
True.
they can. I've worked out. Back in the day, I worked out a Cuban guy. I threw him batting practice. I hit him ground balls at short, center. He would only swing at the pitches that were on the inner third that he could launch. And if it moved a little bit towards the middle, he would just spit on it. And then we went to run the 60, and they brought out a special masseuse, and he put on a tracksuit and track shoes. And they started massaging for half an hour, and he ran the 60 twice, and he ran a 6.9. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, what are we doing? Like, is he going to be able to do that if he's stealing second? Because I don't think they'll have time.
right.
And I think that's the showcase portion, right? Where it's quantifiable too, right? You did this on this date. You ran the 60 at this time, and so the kids put it on their thing. And I do it with my daughter too, right? Like, here's the measurables, and here's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And then you get in the game, you're like, have you ever played before? Like, that's a catcher's interference. What's that? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you can't get that inside.
Right.
TrackMan, that doesn't count.
And even so, you're looking at those measurables that are happening, and if you measured them 3 days later, they're potentially going to be different.
Right.
And it depends on their sleep and different things that are going on in their lives when you're measuring them. So it is pretty interesting.
You get calls from coaches too, like yourself or Travis, or just guys or other else, like, "Hey, we got that kid that we brought in. We gave him a ton of money, and he didn't know how to compete. He didn't know how to get money out. Yeah. Like, I don't know if he's going to throw for us." And then he transfers, and then he's somewhere else, and it's just a world of talent. But nobody's ever taught him how to play.
Right.
I do think you see that change now, and especially like certain university showcases where they're only inviting a certain amount of people.
Yeah.
They eventually put them in a game setting,
right.
And stuff like that. It's not just like you get 10 balls off a tee. Let me see what you can do with it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, we've talked about too, like on the Rapsodo or some of those other things, like the measurables. Like, these kids have figured out if I use a heavier bat,
Oh yeah.
And I use real Major League balls instead of the ones that are in the facility.
The soft ones.
Yeah.
If you hit the ball straight down at the rep soda,
Yeah.
it does read 112.
Yeah, that was 113 miles an hour. It was 74 degrees to the left, but it went behind you. But good job.
Right.
That was a good exit velocity.
But that exit velo is the one that shows up, and
Right.
and through our time in facilities and stuff, you would see people using 3-ounce baseballs off mounds, for
Yeah,
velos.
throwing
and-
golf balls. I'm throwing 117 today. You're like,
For sure.
wow, that's pretty good.
Or even using
not bad.
misreads.
Yeah.
I got a video
Misreads.
of Bartlett throwing 109 on a rep soda.
Yeah.
That just saved in my phone. You know what I mean?
Well, I went back. My daughter used that blast softball on her bat, and she set it up one time to hit in the basement for this home run derby, and it said she had a 121 mile an hour bat speed,
Impressive.
exit velocity, and the ball went 497 feet.
Yeah,
Softball.
That's
15-year-old
good.
girl.
Yeah, 15 girl.
Did you get that on social media?
No, because that's not real. That would be one of those ones like, yeah, send ESPN, like, this girl hits the ball a ton. And I was like,
What
Kelly
was
Leak.
What
My
was
daughter's
it?
name is Kelly Leak.
Yeah, that's impressive. What was it like growing up in a baseball family?
I don't think you realize it when you're in it.
Right.
Like, I go through in Travis and I talk about it. I've been in a big league clubhouse since I was 2 weeks old. I don't know any different. I don't know if I could do anything else if it stopped. And it was part of my DNA. Like, even my sister knew something about the game, and she never played anything, right? And my brother and my sister's my youngest sister is actually a writer, and she's working on a book about baseball and scouting and stuff like that, like fiction. But this game gets in your blood, and I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure it's like that for soccer in certain parts of the world where you just
Makes
I
sense.
definitely know that you don't realize sometimes because 6 months ago I've known Jaymie for a minute, and 6 months ago he goes, oh yeah, personal friend of Nolan Ryan. I know Nolan Ryan. You know what I mean? You're like, what, dude? Don't.
Well,
tell me.
you don't realize. Like, I try to catch myself because you sound like you're name dropping. Like,
Right.
like hold on,
It did come up organically.
Jason Veritek's calling me. I'll call you right back. Or
It's
my
diff-
dad played with
it's
Harmon Killebrew, and
it's
so
different because your circles are different.
circles are
And-
different.
And
If your dad
there's
was an accountant, and there were famous accountants out there. That's who you would know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I think there's different expectations for family time and what family time looks like compared to an average. I mean, it's just it's so different. Family is very important to me and very much a part of my inner circle. And I know for a fact that college coaching, it takes its toll on families, and I think it's coaching just in general because the hours are just different. The games are typically played in the afternoons or the evenings, and that's when most people that have normal jobs are going home for dinner. And it's just different.
It's different, and you gotta the work-life balance. Whether it's a female softball coach married to a man who's just again goes an accountant or something like that, or I mean, it takes a special spouse to trust that person as much as you travel, and the kids, and you got it. But my dad round tripped Hawaii one time to watch me throw a high school game. Like, he landed. I'm like, I thought you were in Hawaii. He goes, I'm going back after you throw, and just round tripped Hawaii and never thought twice about it. And look, I know he got home because I've done it where you drive all night and you've done it.
Do you remember how you threw?
In high school, I threw good because I had a good curveball in high school. I was always pretty good.
Good enough for a round trip.
Yeah, good enough for a round
Good
trip
enough
to
for
where
a
I
round
could have
trip.
told you I'm going to do pretty good here. Like, I've talked about one of my dear friends that I've known since we went to preschool together. He's a scout with the Mets too, but his dad was a scout for a long time, so we've really close. And we talked about that. He said, you were really good in high school because you thought you were really good in high school. Like, my stuff wasn't as good as I thought I was. And that's a tough thing to teach. But like I would have told my dad back then, I'm like, I'll probably go 5 no-hit innings, and then we'll see after that. But you should come. Like, stuff like that. It's like,
that belief system's huge, though. Just huge. And you can see some really talented people that struggle with that belief system, and they just can't figure it out on the field.
it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. My wife's a softball coach at the high school here, and like I said, my daughter plays, and that's a difficult thing. Like, you hit a ball really, really hard, and you hit 3 of them right on the screws, and it goes right to the shortstop. You're like, hey, great at bat. And then, but Game Changer says he didn't have any hits. And I'm like, turn Game Changer off because those were 3 good at bats. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank God we didn't have Game Changer as a kid.
No.
Well, it's just
that way too often.
that whole Game Changers changed too, especially at like the high school level, because you got a lot of parents that are watching it, and then as soon as Billy doesn't get the hit, that
Calling
you know
dad.
they made a mistake and
Yeah.
marked it as an error or whatever. Then they're calling, and Billy's got one more hit on the season. He needs that hit.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
They're seeing that as their kids' next 4 years of
Yeah.
college, and like you're the one that
Right.
shorted that.
Perspective. Tell me about your family a little bit.
My wife and kids. My wife's from Pentwater, Michigan. That's why I live here. I actually really like Michigan.
Here's not Pentwater.
Here's not Pentwater, but Michigan as a whole. If you're from Scottsdale, Arizona, and Phoenix, and born in Southern California, the whole Midwest is here.
Yes.
Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, they're all the same thing.
Easy.
So, but for me, it's my wife is my best friend, Amy. She is a single mom and a single dad when I'm gone. She's takes care of the house. She's fantastic. I think she's actually more upset when I'm home for a while because I upset her routine. My oldest son Carter is at Central Michigan.
Okay.
Not athlete.
Okay.
Really brilliant kid. Has always been just a nice, smart kid that's good at trivia. He's in the honors program. He got 34 in the ACT. I shouldn't say this publicly, but that's from his mom, not me. She's really smart. She's very educated, couple of degrees, and my daughter Kierlyn goes by Kiki, softball player, pitches, hits, junior at Okemos High School. She's a really talented girl. That again, the belief system in yourself is it's a hard one. I never struggle with it, so for me, it was always like, you're good, just get over it. And my youngest, Bennett, is very left-handed. I actually have handed him off to Travis for some pitching lessons because he's too much like me. We'll just butt heads a little bit.
He wants to hear the science terms.
Yes, he's like
he wants to hear
he wants
the
to be
ins
like
and outs.
Travis was explaining to him something, and he goes, "You mean like the kinetic chain?" And I went, "Travis, you got him. I'm out."
Oh, yeah. He's tall too, so it makes more sense.
He went to an improv class last night.
Okay. Nice.
He's just
Nice.
he's unique, and I try to take him with me on the road. We try to have, it's harder when they get older. When they have their friends and their kids, and you want to no, we just let's go to Boston for the week, and you can't do that as much, but they're good. I mean, there's times like I was in Japan for 28, 29 days last year, and that's gone too long. I just, that's too much, right? You're missing too much. Yeah, but there's a work-life balance for sure that if you don't get it, and you're not married to the right person, it's not going to work out very well.
It's all about the right person, and we teach that in our baseball program too, about
huge.
how that contagious proximity, how important that is, and that you've got to line up with somebody that's going to help you, support you, cheer you on. You're going to grow together, and if you line up with somebody that has jealousy, envy, those different things, a lot of needs, and you're in these professions of baseball and the other sports, good luck. You're going to have some challenges.
Yeah, and you got to have trust too. I mean, as much as you're gone, I don't think Amy's ever worried about me. Not that I'm Brad Pitt over here or anything, but I think you travel enough. What's that?
I think she's right. Yeah, she's right.
So I think, I just think you got to find that person, and they got to be comfortable in their own skin.
So, baseball guy, and I'm hearing you're knee deep in softball now.
Yeah, it's a way close. It's a wonderful sport.
What's the differences besides pitching?
I mean, the proximity. I think the girls are tougher. I think they're tougher. I think they're quicker to be down on themselves too, though.
Yeah.
I think the boys are better at faking it till they make it. Like they have they watch enough TV where they point to the sky and do all this stuff, and I think they do a good job of, of that. But it's really, really close, man. Like the swings are pretty similar.
Yeah,
the rise ball versus the four seam, like
they're very, very similar. It's the real oddball is the pitching piece,
and that's the one that's like, my daughter will pitch. She's like, well, I got a 60 pitch pen today, and then I got to pitch tomorrow, and then I got to here, and then I got on Thursday I'm doing this. I'm like, that's child abuse. What are you throwing her so much for? And it's like, well, she needs to maintain. That's normal. I'm like. Like Travis and I, when we're in the thing, it's like, how's your arm feel? 10 pitches, like every kid that comes in, every guy that throws over, and how's your arm feel?
Should be written on my chest.
Right, like how's your arm feel? And it's like, and with the softball girls, I'm like, you all right? Yeah, I'm only at 75 pitches. You're like, you're just getting loose.
Yeah,
you're like, going,
only 20 minutes in.
Yeah, I got 3 more games today. You're like, I don't know.
Do you feel like they have more energy? They're louder?
At times when they're comfortable in their own skin, I think I like the chanting in the dugout. I think it's pretty cool as long as they're not mean to the other. Like,
sure.
You sit there in 12U and they're just ripping the pitcher. And I'm like, man, that's not very nice. The girl's crying on the mound.
Right.
And as I've gotten older too, it becomes easier. Again, I think in the youth sports, the parental aspect is enormous. Like in softball, baseball, that's the part to me that is like, just let your kid have fun and play, man. Like, they're not, the likelihood that they play in the major leagues is very slim.
Yeah, very slim.
This is the glory times right now.
Have fun, right?
Do
I mean,
this.
I always tell people, I said, I challenge her and we talk about things, but we have a good relationship. I'm going to miss the heck out of it when she's gone. If she's going to playing college or whatnot, but there's a challenge to it, man. Like, there's a challenge to get those girls to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
We had a girl on our travel team one time. I just told her to dive no matter what because she'd been beat up so much and yelled at. And there's a ball that was up the middle, and she was playing second. It must have been 15 from her. And she laid out. I mean, full on laid out. It looked like she couldn't see and just dove or tripped over something, but came out of the dugout. I had a girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have 3 daughters, and I fully believe that they need to feel good before they're going to play good.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too. I think I got to have white spikes. I got to have this, and I'm like that too, though. I would say that
I was going to say there's a lot of dudes like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like that. But it's more like, dude, bruh. More than they probably want to lead on.
I've trained guys and girls. I've noticed the girls listen better, it seems like. I've definitely seen, eyes on you where the boys are just like slapping each other and looking around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You say knock it off more often when you're coaching.
Yes.
Dude, knock it off.
I snap my fingers a lot, like I'm talking kind of stuff. The girls are just beat it up.
Yeah. The girls will say something like, stop, he's talking. I go, okay.
Right.
Interesting. Very interesting. What do you know about LCC now that you're in the area and basically living right next door, college-wise?
College-wise, as far as a school as a whole, I always think the junior college route is a terrific route in terms of the opportunity, the cost, and there's a chance to just get your footing, right? We're not all going to be built and physically, mentally, home life, whatever, at 18 years old to be able to step onto a Division I, Division II campus and compete and go to class and deal with living with roommates and and I didn't realize, I was talking to Travis as he was coming over here. We talked a lot. We talk a lot fairly often, but it's a fantastic place for resources like the thing we're in now, and the resources of, he's told me some stuff that you guys are able to do. And I mean, I've gotten to the point, and through softball, I've gotten to it more, is it doesn't matter what the D is in front of it. It doesn't matter if it's a junior college, whatever's going to get, whatever your goal is supposed to be, to do it. And it seems like, Travis talks about his days in junior college at Grand Rapids with a lot of, we were really, really good. And
But
I think that's what LCC's become too, right? I mean, it's one of those.
It's about the people.
It's about
it
the
always
people,
is.
right?
You find a good restaurant, it doesn't matter how great their decor is, but if they've got good people working in there
Right.
and they've got a good chef and
Right.
things like that,
Right.
they're going to have a line of traffic
Right.
going out the door, you know, and that.
And then you're going to drive by and go,
yeah. What's going
what is
on?
that
there?
place?
Right.
You're seeing that there's an old one of these guys on TV's mental guys on TV was just standing in line in Vegas, and people would line up behind him. And there'd be 50, 60 people behind him in line, and he's not waiting for anything. You just put up a rope, he's just standing there. But I think that's right.
Yeah. Law of attraction.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys being on. We're going to wrap it up now. Until next time, thank you to all of our listeners and also to Coach Doyle and Jaymie for joining me today in the WLNZ studios. Stay humble and stay hungry. Go Stars. Coach Cut's Corner is recorded live in the WLNZ studios. Engineering and production assistance are provided by Dedalian Lowry. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it and follow us on all the platforms of social media. You can find more about our program at lccstars.com, and donations to our baseball program can be made at the same site. See you next time.